morning, sunshine, and this is the Playground Experience. I have my lovely two co-hosts down at the bottom, April Williams and Kathy D. We have our own guest as well, Stephanie.
Yay!
Yay! She is
Yay!
here talking about family and marriage. But you know how we start our show always. How are those energies? How are the energies treating you? Because I know a couple of us saying that it's been kind of up and down a roller coaster ride as well. It's been slammed. It's not within internal energies that's whizzing around, is external too. Like on the job with me, them doing a lot of switching of things and already converting over to other systems. And I'm like, hey, we not there yet, but you all jumping the gun. So here we go with that Mercury retrograde energies with technology and communications, and just trying to hold on in the midst of it, and finding myself using the mantra, hey, I can control the things that I control, and the things that I can't, hey, whatever, let that go. So I've adopted that to kind of keep myself anchored. And that's kind of what's been going on with me. And I've talked to a couple of other people, and they say the same thing. It's just emotionally all over the place and trying to draw themselves together. But hey, the new moon came in on yesterday, and
Yes.
that represented a lot of good new opportunities to come in. So that's the caveat of the silver lining in the sky as well to everything. And so that's one thing we can hold on is like, hey, we can take that. Is we also get inspired in another way to start new things, new projects, new things that we seen that's not working. And like, hey, you know what? As soon as this break, or let me make my own way now in the midst of this. Maybe this is happening because it's pushing me to go further and aspire to the next level. So this is might be why I'm being pressed like a diamond during this period. So that's what I can say pretty much. I think for me, the energies represent as well. What you think, April?
Oh, these energies are so confusing in the sense that time keeps jumping. Um, there's a definite fortification of what our truer mission is, right? Because we still sloughing stuff off. But at least I feel like I'm finally getting to the point. I feel like I'm finally like making that headway. And it was an internal and as much as it is an external, and it's constantly correcting itself because we've experienced so much in terms of learning who we are at this point, right? Some people are well, okay, there's the, like you're saying, the internal as much as it is the external, right? The external seems like a lot of people are in their clouds, but they're not affecting yours, but yours is still doing all of its progress and changing. And what's beautiful is like we're breathing in, we have more space to create a higher alchemy, higher vibration will return. The feminine is allowing for receiving of the more, the beauty, the sensuality. And I feel like everyone individually is seeing how there is what resources are available to them, and it just kind of keeps appearing. And it's totally that moment where you say, I love Divine Sunshine often says, when the student's ready, the teacher will appear. So the teachers are appearing, and even if that teacher is yourself, about yourself, you're still open to learning the lessons, you're still open to the growth. And I mean, I'm seeing it within masculinity too, right? I see it being able to be open to that more sensitive self, that more aware self, that committed self. But that also brings its own little waves, right? Of recreation and clearing of, possible traumatic experiences, other addictions and health issues and things like that. Like, a lot of us are really, those that are in the know are taking themselves more seriously in terms of the preciousness of their body and the connection between us all. Oh my goodness. It's ripe right now. This new year, I was telling everybody I forgot what time it was because I thought it was Thursday. Um, and it was like, oh, no, no, no. You were I was being reborn on the new moon. There was so much pressure on that new moon. I must have come through a new womb space, and like here I am, right? Um, but yeah, that's the energies in a nutshell for moi. How about you, Kathy?
The energies they haven't been the normal retrograde energies. They have been a kind of kick butt and take names kind of thing. um Being a journaler and all that kind of stuff, it's one thing to make a list. I'll make a list to find my list kind of thing. And this time it's a make a list and check it off. I know what I'm doing and where I'm going, and it's very direct and it's very thorough. And it's getting things done and seeing, be asking for that clarity from the universe, from from source, from the powers that be, whatever God, whatever you call in, and being given that clarity for each step and where I need to go, and not having that fear. And a lot of triggers have come up and they've been released. And dealing with balance has been a big thing. And just getting it together. And one thing that I seem to, when I talk to different twins throughout the week, the statement that keeps coming up is, i don't need um I don't need a man to come in and save the day. I need a man to stand beside me and face the day.
Mm.
And it's really that, if that's where you still are, DM, that you have to, need the damsel in distress, well, come on back. As Stephanie, I always have loved Stephanie's quote. It'd be like going to the dry cleaners and picking up dirty clothes. I don't want the dirty clothes. Come back when you've got it. And
Right.
it's really right now I'm kind of hermited a bit. I don't really want to do a whole lot. I have my list and I know what I'm doing and I've got
Mhm.
all of this stuff to get done. And but I've withdrawn. It's like, we talk to the DM, fantastic. If I don't, I'm going to bed. I'm tired and I need sleep, and that's kind
Right.
of where I am.
Right.
And it's not an issue like it was before separation, where it was like, I have to call and I have to do this and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to bed.
Right. Right.
It's like, if it's an emergency, he'll call. I'm going to bed. I got enough other people that can tell me what's going on. I'm going. Um, it's just, and it's becoming that we're mirroring really strong. And so it's when he pulls back, it's not as much what am I doing to cause him to pull back. It's where am I pulling back from myself? Not because I want him to come, move back forward. No, it's because I want to heal me, because I want this abundance and everything that's promised to me, that once I get it together, he'll get it together sooner or later. But right now I'm focused on me and fixing, not fixing, but working on me becoming better, the 2.0 version, and just taking those moments. And you know what, if he gets something out of it, fantastic, honey, I'm waiting. But if not, you know what, I know what I need from my life. I set my intentions for the new
Mhm.
moon. I really, really feel good, even
I
with the
Good.
feel that
triggers and
too.
everything.
I feel
Mhm.
that too. The call to safety, creating our own safety, right? Our own security,
Hmm.
securing the feminine root, right? What do you need? All of, you know, I got it.
Hmm.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, and that's true. And you do feel those that are in communication 5D or 3D. You do feel that when you see them kind of do their thing, you're like, okay, it's me time. Just call it now.
Hmm.
It's me time. It's time for me to kind of go back and just focus on myself. It's no more of like, what did I do? Or what is he thinking? what's going on. It's no more of that. You just go into me time mode, like a person like seeing eating your cookies, Oreo cookies, or whatever it is that you got to do, or say work on self, or putting on the lotion and loving self. And that's what I'm just picturing it is. It's like a spot. It's like a spiritual me time of you
Mm-hmm.
looking at yourself. And yeah, they're going through some stuff, but they're coming from another kind of aspect of that, like you said, that open to vulnerability. See, I'm like a person that both of us is kind of on the field. We see on in being in communication with the DM, you can see it front line and center. It's not like through somebody else telling me through cards. Like I'm looking at the specimen and I can
Mm-hmm.
tell you what they're going through. And right now they're at a point where they are vulnerable and you can tell them about some things and they're receptive to listening to it and understanding about what's going on, but they're still going through the pressures of everything. But again, it's a different layer of an opening. It's like, oh, the door is cracked. It's a little bit. I can kind of see you. Yoo-hoo, I see you. So that's kind of where the DMs are. It's just a little bit of opening up them. They're letting you see themselves, the vulnerabilities. This is not right. I wish this had been fixed. I wish that. So this is exactly where the DMs are right now. And so I can confirm and validate what Kathy just said, that is what's actually going on with the DMs at this time.
Well, and they're also with the mirroring, they're feeling what we're feeling.
Yeah,
It might be a different thing. They might be pushing it down or trying not to acknowledge it, but they're feeling it. And, we have to remember no matter where you are on this journey, they get the same energy we do. It's not, they are not like kept from it. We get it and they get it. We share it. They are us, we are them. And so actually Benita and I were talking and we were talking about, missing and how that used to be just so horrible to miss them. And I said, until you get to the point that how can you miss your chair when you're sitting in it? When you get to that point where you realize that they are you and you are them and they're with you,
right,
it would
right,
be like sitting in a chair and missing your chair. You can't do it, because it's there.
right. And it's kind of, the veil is really kind of thinning for
Mm-hmm.
that age, because like earlier, like this week, my brother passed away. And so
Mm-hmm.
at the same time when that had happened, I was getting kind of low, and then he called right on the spot. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay, see, now you're tapping into me. You're tapping to me like, hey, what's happening? And so then it let me know. I said, okay, we really, this opening, you're now open and receptive to the energies that we both had. And it's happened twice
Mm-hmm.
this year. That's why I say they really are kind of, they can feel when they feel like he didn't know what it was, but he's like, something ain't right. So I'm just going to call this, see how she's doing. But he don't know what he's doing it for. He does on another level,
Mm-hmm.
subconsciously, when you say 50, it knows why. So you need to call it because she's about to break down. But that's another way of how to do it. So I do validate what Kathy is saying on that part too as well. So now the lady of the hour.
Woo!
Okay, so tell us a little bit about yourself and then go into your things that you said that you feel that we need to know as far as what's going on with the family and the marriage dynamic that's out there. Because we see some trends, but you're the professional that you're in that part, and that's the 3D aspect. That's why I say the divine masculine energy and the feminine. We know the spiritual things that's going on, but like actually when we bring in both of those two worlds together, what's actually happening in the 3D that you're seeing and you feel that we need to kind of draw attention to.
Okay, well, my name is Stephanie, and I'm a marriage and family intern. I study families and how family relationship influence individuals within the families because we know that one person's actions and behaviors influence the next person's actions and behaviors, and those same patterns can be passed down from generation to generation to generation. So, in this pandemic, we have been forced to be closer together with some family members, and other family members have been falling apart. So the positives about 2020 and 21 is that some family dynamics and people have been closer. Like a lot of individuals in their 20s have moved back home with their parents and whatnot, and even individuals have moved up their wedding dates and got married, had intimate relationships. Ceremonies. But the negative thing is too that some relationships haven't been making it during the pandemic, and some people have been separated and getting divorced. So that's some of the trends that's going on. The research is it's too early for the research right now because it's only February, but it is some positive things happening because of the pandemic, and it is some negative things going on because of the pandemic. Mm-hmm.
And what are
Oh,
some of the positive things? Because we always hear about the negative. We
right.
hear about, everybody, people being depressed and not being connected with people. What are some of the positive that we can start looking for in our lives? To say, those miracles are coming in the next 24 hours. This positive is happening.
Like he was saying before, everybody is starting to double down on themselves. They're starting to focus on themselves, doing self care. Like people are returning to their hobbies, reading books. They're not. People are looking at TV, but they're like, "Hey, I used to paint and I used to read books." And I live in Michigan, so right now it's cold. But in the summer months, we was riding our bikes and we was exercising more. So people are doing that. So those some of the things that's starting to change. Just that people are starting to look at themselves more. So that's a good thing. And oh yeah, and people are starting to look at their mental health because it's been affected due to the pandemic. So that's a kind of a negative and a positive. So people are starting to go to therapy more and saying, "Hey, I've had to sit in my basically stay in my issues for this last year, and a lot of negative stuff is coming up. So I think it's time for me to start to talk about it." So,
Mm-hmm.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
April, did you have something? Look like she was reaching. Okay.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that's beautiful. One of the things is just valuing life and actually having that conversation about mental health. A lot of people would kind of go on a more surface level and realizing that they're interacting together because that time that's so precious with everyone, the energy is a lot more, we're a lot more sensitive to the energy because we are social, you know? And so on this level, I'm noticing everyone's having a lot more care towards each other and a lot more empathy, and then it's actually spreading globally too.
Mm-hmm.
So the just raising in consciousness of that and taking life super preciously because a lot of people are transitioning at this time. But that means that there's a lot more interaction with um, the ancestors, right? A lot of the dead are speaking. So it's very, very interesting. I mean, have you found that you've been speaking a lot with ancestors and a lot of that kind of information coming through for any of you guys as well?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
I've heard that a lot of people are having a lot more interaction with their ancestors and receiving more information from source. Period. That because of this time, people are being, I don't want to say being sat down by the pandemic. So they're not being distracted by like work or sports or kids. They just have to sit down and take in the information that's coming from source or their ancestors or whatnot. Mm-hmm.
I mean, it
Uh,
makes it nice and easier to have a conversation about spirituality now because of there being all this experience. Like it's rare that I, even though I came up in a very hard science field, it's still rare for people that I studied with or people that I still converse with to not have any acknowledgement of spirit. You know what I mean? Before there was some kind of plausible deniability because science doesn't want to overlap spirit, which is why I've had all that like transition. But yeah. Hey everybody. Hi Kiki. Welcome.
Yeah.
yeah, and so now, yeah, I felt myself doing a lot of ancestral work as well. Some readings have came up and of doing that, and it really helping to get their um, perspective on things to kind of really help you to understand that a lot of this work, a lot of times I know, that's funny, we had talked about one of our friends earlier too, and she was telling me, she said, I know what every time when I talk to you, I feel like I can hear your ancestors cheering and saying, you're doing this for us, like, yes, we couldn't do it, but you're doing it for us. And I think that pretty much comes along with it. We're talking about the subject of marriage as well. A lot of us, these things are coming up. This not getting along in the marriage, not to be the angel advocate. I won't call it the other one. But again, help in the room. But a lot of these things are coming up of why things are clashing within the marriage system or the family system is because again they're clearing up lineage or ancestral
Mhm.
cleansing of those things. And so this is why this is like, hey, this is the time. This if what's going on in the world is acting as a catalyst to say, okay, you know what, maybe it's enough and enough. You've done your job, you cleared up their bloodline, you cleared up my bloodline, and then it's time, this moment has come to tell us to kind of like, now it's a parting of the ways. And so again, I can see how a lot of ancestral movement of energies that's going on currently here is helping to create that help, like, yes, move, do you hear? We're talking in the ear, and also motivating them to say, okay, where did that thought come from, you know? And that's your ancestors in your ear giving you some motivation and saying, okay, maybe it's some directive, you may need to do this X, Y, and Z as well. When we're talking about with the family dynamic, what is I want to really say, what is it that, as almost starting from the breaker down, what are the root causes of what is going on now with you saying with the marriage thing that you're seeing some trends? What's the root causes?
Well, like I said before, because people are not distracted by work, people are at home with each other more than they've been before. And because of that, people haven't changed their behaviors. Now their behaviors are being shown more often with families. So bad behaviors are being shown. So like I said, you got to interact more with people, and their bad behaviors is causing more toxicity in relationships, and people can't escape it. So people are starting to break up. And I think also people are realizing too that now some of these relationships that they've been avoiding interaction with, now they're realizing that their relationships are toxic. So now the result is for them to possibly move on and move out because it's unhealthy for them. So my one thing I want people to understand is determine if you are in a toxic relationship. Yes. Understand and know the characteristics of those, and then focus on your health and well-being. That's next. Make sure your mental health, your physical and emotional health is all intact. Even do like a detox or self-care to get that together, and let your higher self lead you in those moments. So always listen to your higher self. Yeah.
So what are some of the signs of a toxic relationship? How do we know when we're in toxicity? What are some things, some red flags we should watch for?
Some red flags. The Woman Health magazine said that some are codependency, anxiety when you're separated from another person, a person is self-centered, you're in isolation, you damage your self-esteem, you're in a constant state of insecurity, there's like an imbalance of power, the relationship is draining, there's control factors, jealousy, manipulative, you're not practicing self-care, you always focused on the other person, or you waiting on the other person to change in a relationship. So it's never the other person might not take responsibility for their actions, or you are either. They're all in. It's a psychologist named Gottman and his wife, and they have the 4 apocalypse of relationships, and a few of those things are stonewalling. So if you and a person in a relationship and y'all not talking to each other, that's one sign that your relationship is not good. Or like the superiority factor, where one person think they're better than the next, put another person down. So that's how you know. That's some of the signs that you're in a toxic relationship.
And not to confuse stonewalling with separation in the twin flame thing. Don't immediately go, well, because my twin's not talking to me, so he's stonewalling me, and we're in a toxic relationship. No. We're talking about people in the same house, literally sitting next to each other, not speaking. Okay, that there's a difference.
Right. Yeah. So like another thing too, anybody can have these traits, especially those who will have experienced trauma in their life. But concerning like twin flames, we call people who have like narcissistic traits in twin flame community karmics. But in psychology, call them narcissists, like I said. And the biblical term for them is Jezebels. So they all have the same traits and the same mindset. But at the end of the day, it depends on your health. You cannot change the next person, but you can change the way you react to that person.
And that's excellent advice. We have to all remember that, especially in close quarters. We can't change other people. We can change ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now whether they're going to like us after we've changed, that's a whole nother story. But as long as you like you, do you, boo. That's all you need to do.
Right. And also, because we all, well, like I said, I'm in Michigan, so we just got off restrictions from the pandemic. But if you have to be in close quarters with someone, utilize your space as much as possible, like one person in the bedroom, one person in the living room, one person in the kitchen. And if you are able to still work. You don't have to work in the same space. So give each other space so that you can have a flourishing relationship in the middle of all this.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It was interesting. I was watching a video earlier. It was with Patricia McNeely, and that's so weird. She did it maybe like a year ago, and she was talking about marriage and family too. And it was interesting that she was saying about in the marriage how marriage is pretty much you saying people marry and the idea of marriage and how it's getting all off the rails is it's several things such as like she's like it has a misuse of power a lot of times. She says some people marry because of convenience. Some people do it, they stay in the marriage. It's the things of why they stay in it. The reason why they stay in it is because there's distortion of how they view the marriage or what marriage is. The misuse of power. They're in it because it's convenience. And some of those convenience drop into either they're hiding some sexuality issues, or she was talking about immigration issues as well, or it could be arranged marriage that goes to culture, what we were talking about earlier. And then some of them are staying in it because of financial, and also there some of the people believe that their spouse is a property.
Mm-hmm.
And so, with all of those things, is there some of the ways would you agree, or are there some other things that need to be added to? Is why people stay in marriages that they know that's not healthy?
Oh,
Is
well,
it
that could be several reasons. Like she said, it could be like a financial obligation or codependency thing going on, or the children. It's a whole list of reasons why people stay in relationships. But at the end of the day, like I said, the person has to focus on themselves and determine their own self worth and build themselves up. And that's how they would get out of those relationships and stop the codependency and also educate themselves, pick up books, read books, get a counselor or a therapist, and understand that even though you might have children with this person, you don't have to necessarily stay in a relationship as a marriage relationship with them. You can just be friends or strive to be friends. You don't have to do that.
And that is the beauty of this new age, right? And the new family, what's the new family parameters?
Yeah.
They're just going. I'm just. It's a new dynamic, new family dynamic, right?
Yeah.
It's not always just old school, mommy, daddy, children, and then they stay together no matter what. If they tear each other's faces out, the War of the Roses. My mom. I watched that movie when I was really young. I shouldn't have. I think I snuck and watched it. I was like, what is this, right? And it was one of those where if you haven't seen the War of the Roses, it's actually a very intense movie where a married couple, they go from completely in love to absolutely hating and wanting to kill each other. But
Over a
it's
house.
kind of
Yeah.
and do.
I wasn't trying to spoil it for the people.
Well, they need a little warning on there because it doesn't flip back and it's not happily ever after.
Right.
Well, I don't think that needs a warning. I think people should understand that if you just, you can't argue your way to peace, right? You've got to piece your way to peace. And so just how we approach a topic, how we approach even friendship, what is a friend? You are with if you're with someone who's abusive, you've clearly attracted that person and keep them in your life. There's a reason why, right? And it's about lesson learning. Sometimes people are willing to change and sometimes people are not. All right. And so this is one of those things that you got to discover and know about yourself. You can be too overly giving, right? Oh, and that's a part of your patterning, right? You're understanding that I haven't been taking care of myself or different things like that, And then you can also get into how to set your boundaries, right? We go through this whole series. You can look at our old videos because we've got the new playground. We got a setup coming. So you can watch our series of how to set boundaries. And you can even find out where they come from. Thanks to Divine Sunshine, she's done all of the work for you in terms of your inner child work. Seriously, she's done all the work for you. I mean, it's easy. Just plug and play, right? And sit there and listen and reflect. Because as Kathy D said earlier, it wasn't a matter of doing. It was a matter of being in that moment. What did you call it? Molly meditation? You're not a mama
meditation. You just want to
mama. Yeah. Like you spend that time in reflection so that things open up, so that you actually see opportunities and choose to receive the gifts that you are given in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the beauty of in the goddess embodiment, the twin flame embodiment. No matter where you are in your journey, the more clarity you get about yourself in the dynamic of all the other relationships, you will see your power reflected within your own inner peace, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you will watch your external just change before you, because it's a miracle. All of the stuff is a complete miracle that goes through, because you suddenly, it's not a spiritual bypassing if you're going through the gauntlet of your material self. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're going through your whole process of being, and you get to the other side and you realize other people have not done this, right? Our earth is really alchemizing this change through these specific beings placed upon the planet, right? And thank goodness you were one of them. Thank goodness you were chosen to be here at this time, right? Because we don't have to do any roles that we were modeled. We create what's around us. We do have standards. We do have boundaries and rights of every being, right? But be as freaky as you want, and be as, safe and humble, or, however you want it to be. It's going to be your vibration, and you will attract your soul tribes, and everything will set itself in order. But the only way to do that is to be integrity with yourself and realize, I am an abusive relationship. How do I shift to that dynamic? Right? It's hard to admit these things when you go through these really gnarly experiences, because you think, I'm smarter than that, I'm better than that. I couldn't possibly do that to myself. I would never. And some of us really would never, right? Like, oh no, she's not talking to me. This is not resonating. Click. No, just kidding. Anyway, the point of being is so that you can see that in others too, and have patience and be the space with them, right? Since we're all reflections of each other. Spirit is coming through strong, you guys. I'm apologizing for Spirit taking the wheel. Woo!
Yeah.
But
It is. I'm looking at everybody's screen. It's like, we're gonna keep the show going, folks. We're just gonna keep on.
welcome to the playground. But yes, are you in an abusive space? Do someone you know, are they in an abusive space? Are they aware of that? Right? Are they saying the same things over and over again to you without any change? Are they aware of their own cycles? This is our opportunity to kind of spread that self-awareness, or at least planting the seeds so that it sparks itself. Because like we were talking about, that self-care, that that creation of the prayer and the whatever your ritual is, at a certain point, everything becomes that ritual. Just being you. Hey!
Yes,
Hey!
yes, I agree. I believe I always tell people the most important relationship you have is the one which you have with yourself first. So yes, you love yourself and respect yourself, then that will vibrate to other people, and they would have to match your vibration, but you have to put yourself first. So yes, that's very true.
Yeah, and so that's a lot of times. It's interesting. Still back what I've seen also, and she brought up some other points again. Like she was saying, like if you're in a marriage that's toxic, some questions that you should ask yourself is, what am I doing? Not how are you doing? How are you doing? No, but what am I doing? Situation that I'm here in this marriage. And she said sometimes, some of them are still in the marriage because of credit cards, feeling obligated. That's financial. Some of them feel like if they do pull out from the marriage, that the rug will be pulled out from them. Some of them in the marriage because, again, it's a vow they took or a spiritual agreement. But at the same time, you have to remember that as twin flames, you're in there to break up the monotony or the old ideology of what marriage is. And that's rather if you're with your twin flame or you're not with your twin flame, is because it's a newness. And she brought up a very good point also too. When I watched that, it was like a lot of times, sometimes you say celebrities, you will hear them, and they might be twin flames too as well. That are saying, you know what, we've got to part ways, but we're still friends. We're working on things. She said that's a lot of twin flame kind of like term wording that is used to let you know that twin flames say, you know, we still love each other, we still want to be connected, but something about it, we got to go work off some things together. And she said that when that happens, and I thought that was like a light bulb moment. She said when that happens is because you're breaking that old marriage vow or cycle or ideology. When that happens, to say we're going to try this again, but we're going to try it on our terms, on our way of doing things, instead of doing it because of, you know, well, when two people love each other, you marry, or you had a child and you got pregnant, so now I got to marry you, or my parents say I got to marry you, or because of cultural things we have to marry. And so again, that's taking that saying, you know, break those chains off and say, no, let's create our own. So a lot of times when that happens, as twin flames, we have to, those that are in marriage or not, have to understand there's a purpose, rather it's generational, or just to help the mindset of the people around you, your own soul group, to see that, to say, hey, you're standing up for yourself. She said it wasn't working. I thought it was working because they had painted this beautiful thing, but she's now standing up and saying, no, I got to live in integrity. I told you all that's the word of the street on the twin flame. I say I call it Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. In twin flame neighborhood, it's integrity. What are you doing to make yourself be whole? And that is the way of how you do that, is to live that life that you set forth to live on your terms. Rather they get it or they don't. Sometimes they need to see that your circle around here. I'm not going to say yes to something that I really want to say no. Yes, no. And you got to make up your mind. What way are we going to do this? So you got to really get very with integrity and purpose as to what are you signing up for. And so that doing that helps them to also know that your no means no. Oh, and your yes means yes. Okay. So you can get it together. And that helps them to know that they have to do that. So again, as twin flames, you are there as a model to help others and a template for them others to follow as well.
And with that being said about helping others, please, if you know anyone that is in any kind of abusive relationship, help however you can. Until you've been there, you don't know how comforting and what strength words have. To just hear the phrase, you don't deserve to be talked to like that. Because if you've been in it for a long time, you start to think you deserve to be talked to like that. So, you know, lift them up however you can. You know, there's the 1-800 number for, you know, abuse and spousal abuse. And please don't limit it just to women. Men can be in this situation too, and it's even harder for them to get out. So, you know, please look that number up. You know, there's people to talk to. And if you're in that situation and, you know, you need somebody to talk to, we're here. And, you know, there are wonderful people there. There's CASA, there's all these places. Reach out to somebody, just to have somebody say, I hear your story. I know what you're going through. I've been through it and I got out. And I'm proud to say I did. So you can do it. To whoever, there's somebody out there that needs to hear that, and you can do this.
Yeah, I totally agree with you saying about the men, because I think sometimes the men is very hard for them to do, because I don't think they get the support from the family or their friends. It's like, you know, no, you can kind of tough that out. No, it ain't that bad. Is it that bad? You know, and they keep on talking them out of it. And I think that's also a way of keeping men in there, because they're the soul in some ways, according to society standards, and maybe even the setup of the system too, is their family, their sole provider. The kids look up to them money wise, financially. They got a lot of things that's wrapped up into it, and it's kind of hard for them to believe that they can walk away from that, you know, or it's the system of the status that they have built by being in that marriage, and how that also builds onto that identity, which is like Patricia McNeely say everything, the reasons that they want to stay in the marriage is all egoic, period. I don't care how you slap it around, whether it's ego, I'm protecting myself, or the ego is like, I'm just going to stay in it because of status. It doesn't matter. It is from egoic setting, whether it's covert or was covert the opposite, or invert or extrovert,
Overt,
yeah,
overt.
yeah, it don't matter on that how it's showing up on that.
And oh, okay. And that's kind of why I keep kind of steering it back to the self, right? Because if you aren't working in your highest integrity, it doesn't clear the space for your divine counterpart to do the same. Now, yes, sometimes we feel like we're doing all this stuff, but Kathy D mentioned, it was either last week or the week before, that they're doing the work too. It's different time of work, and
True.
we have been put in place to anchor this in, to whether together or apart, right? Now, our goal, our aim is for together. For some people, together. Some people are like, as long as it gets done, right? But be in integrity with where you are. Don't just push it away. If you're denying that part of yourself, where I do have that longing, but I'm going to fill that space up with self-love and making sure that I'm actually cared for and supported, and I'm not distracting myself over sacrificing or doing these other things. And that only comes through a knowledge and self-awareness. Now, before we got on the show, we have a little bit of time to talk, and I was listening to the ladies while I put on my face, the year of the ox, a little Heather energy, a little cap, a little makeup, goddessy style energy. We talked about, how we, how do we embody ourselves the best? How do we release codependency? There's a phrase, oh man, I wish I could remember it exactly, because I brought it up, and if I hadn't said anything, it would have been fine. But the several ways that we clear these family dynamics as twin flame energy, and what we have patience for and what we don't. And that requires setting the proper boundaries. And if we're making the similar patterning for ourselves, we guarantee that those around us are in similar patterning. So it's kind of like the idea of, that little bird that goes like this, the water bird, and it's dipping its face in the water, right? Every time they dip in the water's going to have the same reverberation, right? Even the air around it's going to have the same reverberation. But if you were to hold it with your finger and pause for a minute, it would change how it affected the entire system. So us taking the time for ourselves to recalibrate is a ripple in the pond of our individual spheres.
Yes.
And our individual spheres becomes together. Now, what's cool about being a twin flame is when you do it to yourself, your other shifts as well. And you can bring all of this into a higher vibration, but you have to see that you're worthy of this. You have to understand that you are okay to receive this abundance, this nurturing nature space that we are. And that's why I want to say, yes, it may be tough for them, but we can make it lighter just by being. Now, I'm not saying deflecting all of your self-healing and over to them, but let your cup runneth over.
Yes.
Because it's when that wellspring just keeps coming out of you, that's when you're on energetic, manifestation powerhouse mode, however it manifests, whether it just be like, even if you're Reiki energy, maybe you're going to cook, you have all this cooking energy, maybe you know what I mean? But it's a matter of letting it flow through you so that this whole world, I don't know, I'm just so stoked. I'm so stoked that we're here today.
I
There was something that
understand what
you
you're saying. Like, I'm sorry. Like you can't pour from an empty cup. So if you have a
Mhm.
cup and it's filled with codependency and no self-love, that's what you operating of. But if you fill your cup up with self-love, you won't have any space for codependency and negativity to come up. So the whole point is to fill your cup up so that your cup can overflow, and that's how you will feed other people.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
it
That's
also brings
exactly it.
you to peace at where you are in the journey, right?
Hmm.
Or the adventure, but then this particular space of this journey, right? Because the adventure is the whole thing, and then you have little journeys throughout the adventure.
True.
So in this space, this
Odyssey.
yeah. Oh, I like that. The epilogue. Yes, this little spark, this blip where you feel this discomfort, it becomes it changes, it alchemizes into something more powerful as you step fully into union with yourself, fully into that self understanding. As soon as you're willing to have your hermit mode, then you may allow yourself to receive that blissful couple mode, right? Because sometimes we don't want to receive that, or we don't think we're worthy of that, and we will
True.
push it away. Even energetically, will allow for negativity to come in even when positivity shows itself, right? Because we've been fed some kind of blase blah in before, but
Mhm.
this is the whole paradigm shifting. Now, you had brought something up. What was it? IF something that you wanted to?
IFS,
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
can we talk about
Yes.
that?
Yeah,
Internal
talk to
Family.
them about that.
Okay, Eternal Family Systems was created by Dr. Swartz, and it means that your internal, you have different parts within yourselves. And like my part, for example, is a critical part. And you could have an angry part, or you could have a workaholic or busy bee, and that part emerges when you are wounded. It like suppresses your inner child and is trying to protect it. So those parts come out to do all it stands up for them. So like I said, my part was the critic. So from a young age, I had to learn how to be on my best behavior and look a certain way. So at the age of 41, my critic is like, oh, you need to exercise more. You need to eat better. You need to do this. You need to show the outside world. Da 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 da. Well, this IFS shows you that you got to allow your higher self to take control and take ownership of your parts. So in one of the videos, Dr. Swartz stated that you have to have a conversation with one of your parts. So like I said, I'm the critic. Somebody could have a gym rat as a part. You have to sit down and have a conversation with your part and say, thank you for taking care of me for so long. You did a good job. But now I'm of age. I'm 41 years old. And I believe my higher self is able and capable of taking care of me now. So it allow it to step back and let your higher self step in.
Yeah.
Yes. It's a movie called In and Out, a Pixar movie. It's based off of IFS, and I think they
Mhm.
consulted Dr. Swartz. So it's a nice little movie to talk about how your inner parts interact with each other. I think in the movie it's an anger part, a nonchalant part, a happy part, optimistic part, and I think somewhere in the movie the inner child got pushed away in all the
Mhm.
happy movies, so they had to go happy parts. They had to go get it. So that's how IFS works. So the whole point or the purpose of is to liberate all your parts and have freedom, and to restore trust and self leadership within yourself.
Yeah, that is really neat. I've never heard, but I will want to do some more research on in building that, because it's like it's almost like a questionnaire that you fill out and you see where you lie at, or how does it go?
When you go to a therapist, they have to be specialized and trained in IFS, and they're
Okay,
all over the country, and they work really well for multicultural individuals who have been through trauma, or who have
okay,
been depressed and things like that. Because, like I said, it talks about your higher self, and that's not a component that's usually utilized in a lot of other approaches. So the IFS specialist will talk about your past and the things you're going through, and like sometimes if you have experienced trauma, they were like, can I speak to your inner child? So they speak directly to your inner child and will ask for permission from your parts to see who would speak up. I believe in one of his videos, he was speaking to an individual who had multiple personalities. So he had to ask the personalities to take over for them. And I guess all the parts got upset. So it depends on what parts you have. Like I said, I had a list of a couple, like the anger protector, the inner critic, the war reward, those are called managers. So
Okay.
your inner child will be in exile. So it's different little categories and things, but they will explain it to you. But the whole part is to liberate all your parts so that you can have freedom within yourself.
And it's
Wow.
very personal. It gets into a personal, more personal level. It's not like, if you got so many letter B's on this questionnaire, you are
Yeah. Okay.
this is a very in-depth, and when you get somebody that has studied this and practices it, it's an amazing thing.
It sounds
Yes. So
good.
like your I guess they call protective parts, that'd be your core self and higher self. Your exile part can be an inner child, a teenager. It could be your divine counterpart or the age you experienced a traumatic event. And like I said, your managers could be like your inner critic or your anchor protector. But your firefighter parts, those are the parts of you that when you get upset, you might want to go shopping or overeating or exercise excessively or over meditate or have an addiction. So that's what they call the firefighter mode. So the whole thing is to try to eliminate as many firefighter motives as you have and let your higher self bring all your parts together. So
Okay. So now, do they use the term higher self? Are you using that? Do they use? I mean, is it spiritual intertwined in there?
yes, you have a it's one of your parts. So if you go in and you say identify one of your parts as your higher self or your core self, they're gonna be like,
Okay.
okay, yes. And the whole point is for your core self, higher self to be in charge and not your
Got
manager part. Like it could be a karmic part or something like that. You want your higher self to be in charge.
Okay, I just wanted to know because I was like, okay, when you go in there and then you say, I want my higher self to deal with my higher self, then the person will be like, what? No, we talk about your subconscious. That's going to answer. So that's why I was like, is the higher? Do they use that terminology? Higher
Yes,
self? Because I mean, it's rarely that these
yes, they're
other
gonna say
people come
protective
to
parts and exile and firefighter parts. So they talk about all your parts. It's like you having a
Wow.
conversation about your twin flame. You was like, a part of me is happy that we in this situation, but another part of me is upset that it's not working. So the part of you that's not happy could be your inner child, and your higher self is kind of happy that you're in the experience. So the whole point is to bring them together.
Oh yeah, well, right now my inner child ain't happy about this job. I can tell you that. She hollers all the time. I don't want to go. I said, oh
My
Jesus.
inner child does the same thing. My inner child actually announced today, we need to work on our resume.
Right.
So
Yeah, I'm like, you getting kind of loud, little girl. So you're right. It does. I don't know who's speaking when I'm with the I guess so. That's interesting. I'm getting too deep. I don't want to get that deep. But right on that one. Let's get on the family. We talked about the marriage, but we didn't talk about the family. So what is going on with the family dynamic that you're seeing now that you said that you wanted to draw attention to us about?
Well, with the families, like I was saying, like a lot of families are being more closer now, like having family time, doing activities together. But on the flip side, like Kathy D was saying, a lot of negativity is being brought up. So a lot of domestic violence is coming up and child abuse is coming up because a lot of times now children are not being able to escape from the situations. They're not going to school, they're sitting in the house. So pay attention to your household, what's going into your household. Be patient with each other because everybody is going through this pandemic. Everybody is being affected. Like you were saying earlier with IFS, if somebody is really calm right now during a pandemic and all this stuff going on, their inner child has went through experience like this before, so they're really calm. So that's something
Oh,
you need to watch out for. So if people are upset or anxious or nervous, it's okay. You should be. We're in a pandemic and there's a lot of stuff going on, but it's how you manage those moments. It's different things that people can do, like I said, to
yeah.
make those family dynamics better, make the situations better. Like if you're single, like you said, you can do meditation, explore new hobbies, and heal yourself. But if you're in a relationship, you can cultivate your marriages or with your counterpart, like doing date nights, movies, or cooking meals together, have game nights with your kids, do things to
Okay.
make keep your families together. Like I said, eating together and whatnot. So on one hand, some families are getting stronger and better, and on the other side, some families are not doing so well. So you got to um, look at their what you call it the different kind of characteristics and see if you are in a good space or not in a good space. So there's two different types of family dynamics going on right now.
mhm.
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to see even with the like you're saying about the family. Um, also with what's going on with them, how would you do with like even the children? Because I seen today on the news, and they one of the anyway, one of the parents was saying that it was very hard with everything that's going on, with the children staying home and they're being on remote, and they're not getting out to talk to their friends. It's very hard on them. It seems like they're not adjusting well. What do you have advice for a parent that says it looks like it's taking a toll on their child by them being isolated from their friends and through like the schooling and the education that they're experiencing now by being remote?
Well, first get a schedule, set a schedule.
Hmm.
Do have set times, like they're still going to school. Get them up by a set time. Eat balanced meals, make sure they eat breakfast. And if they doing like virtual learning, don't do the virtual learning in the same bedroom where you are. Like move it to a different room, change the location. Like for me, even though I work from home, I still get up and dress every day. I still
Hmm.
comb my hair and put on my makeup and put on my perfume. Do little things like that. And with little children, I know they get bored and they want to sit down. Have them breaks in between there. Give them activities to do to like the color. Um, they have Disney Channel X Disney XP, all the different little things. Give them movie
Hmm.
times, play games. They can even do Zoom with their friends, so they don't really have to be isolated. But you can't keep them busy. And around Christmas time, I have a child at my house, so we did Christmas activities, made gifts for our other family members and things. So do arts and crafts and things like that too.
What do you say to a child that's seeing now there's the effects of COVID on their parents and how they're interacting with each other? What is some things that you know that you and the it's breaking down you and the marriage between you and the person, but your child is there eyewitnessing all of this going down. So what would be some things that you would say as a parent you would do for your child is seeing this?
Well, first of all, let the child know that it's not their fault and it's not their responsibility to
Mhm.
fix their
Fix.
parents and whatnot. That's not their job. Their job is just to be a child. So if you are having issues with your counterpart in the house, remove the child from that. They don't need to see that. Try to take it outside. Try to keep their world childlike. They don't have to be privy to what's going on in your relationship. So try to keep that to a minimum. Even though, like I said, I know it's hard. The arguments could be coming up or the fights, whatever. But try not to do that in front of your child. The child don't have to be responsible for that or see that. So yes, remove them for that from that area.
Mhm.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, because that was interesting. She was talking about like the role of the children and how and the families and how what they're doing is to again some of them is to help children and families, and I think even Benita was talking about that to help out. You know, they're coming out with this new things, but some of these children are choosing some of these situations to help them to spiritually grow as well. And she was talking about again, that's on and off for what you're saying about the world of the children coming up in. Maybe if the dynamic is a twin flame with a karmic or twin, that the relationship isn't healthy, and how they're saying that they asked to be there because again, for their soul's growth, to help clean the damage that's going on. It's not their role to clean what's going on between their parents, but it's like again that point on, they're going to take what they've learned, and I know that even for myself, and say I'm going to do things differently than what I've seen my parents do,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a way of them cleaning up the damage, like I say about family wise as well. And like I said, when you have those kind of damage, especially like COVID, what do you see like the new dynamic of family and marriage going to be after we come out of this COVID situation? What do you think is going to happen? What would you
Well,
say?
like you said, like April was saying, it's gonna be like a new dynamic of families. It might not be the traditional families like it was before, like the mother and father and the child. They might just be co-parenting and living in two households, and or they could be people who have were separated could have came together and became a family unit now. So it's gonna be a new normal, something that we have to go get used to, like everything else that's going on. Don't try to put this new relationship in the old pattern. It's something
Okay.
new, so let's go with it. If it's not causing any issues and everybody's okay and they're happy, just go with it. Don't try to force it or make it like it used to be, because that's gone.
Okay.
And with everybody being happy with it being you and the person you're in a partnership with, because that's something we have to remember about the new dynamics of the twin flames is we're coming together. Family and all of these, paradigms have been put on us about, well, this
Mhm.
is a wife's role and this is a husband's role and this is
Right.
this and this is this. All of that's going to go away, and or we're going to kind of push it away because we'll still be close with our family, but that whole, well, you need to do this is going to be put to a
Right.
stop. We're not listening to that anymore. So there are going to be families that mom and dad aren't married, and you know what, they get along great,
Mm.
and they don't need to have that, whatever, in certain situations,
Right,
that piece of paper
right.
to you know
Yeah. I know back in last year it was a document called Black Love, and DJ Jazzy Jeff was on there with his wife, and they was so used to saying they had the Huxtable relationship and the kids had to be perfect and they had to eat breakfast. He said after this pandemic he didn't care if they ate chicken nuggets and Kool-Aid for breakfast. Long as everybody was happily and alive. And I told my mom the same thing. Like she's older, so she used to do it in the church on Sunday, cleaning up
Uh-huh.
on Saturday, doing all this kind of stuff. And finally, it just hit her like, why am I doing this? Listen, we just in a pandemic. We don't have to have Sunday dinner in a perfect way. Hey, we can have pizza. So whatever goes, goes. Whatever makes you happy, makes you happy. Don't be trying to make the old system work now, because a lot of things not gonna go back to the way it was. So we just gonna have
mm-mm.
to roll with it. So
Right. And I could channel April. She say, and that is the purpose of the pandemic, is to catalyst us and to push us on out of that old paradigm, that old way of
mhm,
thinking. I heard you. I heard
mhm.
you, April. You was channeling to me. That's the
I
purpose.
second that.
I know.
Mhm.
Now you can speak, April. I'll let you speak for real, but you channeled that to me at that moment.
It's just really beautiful to be able to have a conversation about this situation, right? Because we can draw however we want to create and manifest our new earth. What's that perfect day for you? What is that moment? Is it I got up, I made juice or a smoothie with my kid. I then got them dressed and sent them off to class. Or I don't know how the distant remote does, but with son, it's we get up, we read books, we meditate. Like myself practice. If I'm off, I see him doing my stretches, and I'm like, oh yeah, thanks, son. You know, because he keeps us in line with our divine pattern and path, and now we can get really soft and caring and intimate with ourselves to create the space for all of us to be able to share this dynamic, like people being able to communicate that they had a rough childhood, people being able to communicate and look at it and say, you know what, I guess this has skewed my perspective on reality,
Hmm.
and having the patience with each other to do so.
And
So
it's
I'm
also given us a chance to see in our dynamics where we have had a rough childhood or things like that. And then we can actually, as we sit back and we look at it, you can say, but you know what? I learned from that. And I'm
Mm.
thankful for it.
Mhm.
I see what I got from that. And I am so thankful for it. And once you get to that point to be able to look at what were always, the bad parts of your childhood, and you can look at it and say, we might not have had a lot, but my mom and dad always made sure I had what I needed.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
you know what? I'm thankful for that. And, it's things like that that make this pandemic where we had to slow down and see that everything's not just doom and gloom and it's not black and white, that there is a silver lining to
Mhm.
some of these bad experiences or what we consider bad, because everybody has their own scale, not taking anything away from anybody. um but we have to find the good in it, because there's always a lesson somewhere in it,
Mhm.
and we have to be grateful for that lesson.
True. And I think the pandemic also brought to us how strong we can be
Mhm.
individually and as a
Mhm.
unit. And so we found our roles that sometimes, again, well, you're weak, I become strong. I become the
Mhm.
breadwinner when your job got cut off, and now I got to supply. for the whole household, you know, and you learn maybe when I was taking care of the kids, how hard that job was as a mommy. And so now you have more empathy for me now as the
Mhm.
mommy. And so
Mm-hmm.
that is another perspective, an eye-opening of seeing everybody from a new light to that this um, COVID or this pandemic has brought to us to eye-opening moments to open up our eyes so we can be able to really see things in a different way and seeing, hey, that doesn't work like you said, but this way seems like it's working. No, you know what? We say if it's not broke, don't fix it. We didn't find out it broke and we did need to fix it. So
Right.
exactly where we have found ourselves now in this whole pandemic thing.
I have
Now,
something to say. I want to
yeah,
say thank you to you two, Divine Sunshine and Kathy, because we really appreciate you too, because you're all teachers. So a lot of people are understanding how hard y'all work. So I want to say thank you.
thank you, thank you,
Yes,
thank
thank you.
Mhm.
you.
People, a lot of parents are learning now.
Yes, they're
Hmm. Now
learning.
they all want to know why we call every week, to not just to have a conversation with them. We really don't care how their goldfish Freddy's doing. We're letting them know that little Johnny's been jumping off the table, and they're calling in because he's jumping off the dining room table now. You know.
Right, right. Yeah, now they get it. Now they get it that we're not just bothering them just for nonsense things. It is a reason when you're talking about that famous stuff. Well, he don't do it when he's with me. Now you
Oh
see
yeah,
it.
he does.
How I know? Because I see it in the background of the Zoom meeting, of the Google meeting. I see y'all arguing back there. So he do the same thing with you too, huh? He talks back to you just like he talks back to me. I see.
Hmm.
Don't get us started. Don't get us started. This is
No.
a spiritual show. Let us draw ourselves back and become the spiritual leaders that we are. Okay, I'm back. Hey, and I had talked to Kiki too. I know she's a teacher too. Shout out to
Yes,
you.
Kiki, and she teaches high school, so
Ooh.
that's an interesting. They've really got an interesting dynamic going on in the high schools. I know down here in Florida, we're seeing a lot more kids out on quarantine in the high schools than anywhere. And so that it's really
Mm,
become a revolving door. And then for the teachers having to teach both online and face to face and have these kids flipping back and forth, and you have to be patient with them. So high school is has really become an interesting dynamic. If you can think about it, most of the time when we talk about high school, we talk about, you know, the good times. You know, nobody sits there and goes, I remember that great day we had in calculus. No, nobody does that. But we
mm,
remember the football games, and well, April might,
right. True.
but we uh we remember football games, and we remember homecoming dances, and we remember, you know, prom, and you know, lunches with our friends and things like that. And when that's been taken away, they've really lost a lot of their identity. And so that's a it's an interesting there, and it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out in the next 4 to 5 years as these kids are now going into college and into the workforce. What's going to happen? Are they going to become like a very close knit group and not have to have a large group of friends? Or is this going to become a very large, very social crowd because of what they missed when they were teenagers?
Right. That's what I'm
I
wondering.
know we're seeing with my 15-year-old who's a sophomore. Last night, her and a bunch of her friends got together and they sat and watched The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. But it was like a big event. But it was just being able to be together
Yeah, they're right.
in the same room and watch TV, which seems silly, but it's what they crave.
Mhm.
And it's that craving, that social. So I think of all the kids, I think elementary are going to bounce back the best.
Okay.
I think middle's kind of stuck there in a weird place. You know, you can't
Mhm.
do, but you really couldn't go anyway. So you're just complaining because you don't like yourself complaining. And then I think it really has affected the high school kids
Yeah,
and the
that
college kids. You know, having to do all their learning online. Here, you're
yeah, they don't like
spending,
that.
you know, $74,000 in tuition, and you got to sit at your mom's dining room table to attend some of these big universities, because you're still having to pay the same tuition, but not getting any of that college experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, many of them have been complaining. I know my niece have been complaining about that. I don't like that. I don't do too well underneath that. But that's interesting. But again, I can see the reversal of it, because that generation of high schoolers have become too much of carrying in the light. I'm looking at my, and so again, that's going to draw them to come out to be more sociable, because a lot of times they say the breakdown of the communication and being able to socialize is in that generation, where it's just like, okay, I'll text you. No, talk to me face to face. Here I am. I'll text you back. Okay, and I'm like, we right here. So, that's an interesting twist of how that's going to push them out of that, to break them out of that comfort zone too, as well. Yeah,
and be careful too, because a lot of them are saying that they're stressed and they have a lot of anxiety and they're sad. So talk to your youth and your children to see how they're doing. I think a lot of they've been skipped over because of their adults. So please take the time to check in with your children and your teenagers.
Okay.
I'd say that it's going to be that new age of sacredness, because everybody talked about mono and a couple other things that people get, but now it's reinventing that, or not reinventing, but re-honoring the sacredness of the body, right? And the reason that the body is, there's a new wave of spirituality and connection, because we meet the kids today, and that reintegration of that intimacy, right? And then our teaching of self-care, right? Because if we are no longer able to, why adults tend to stay more to themselves than they did when they were in that development stage, was because of understanding what social groups were, right? Because social groups originally taught what's normal, right? What's appropriate, styles, trends, things like this. People are allowed now to be more of their crazy, authentic self, right? They're going to have more experimentation with makeup, art, music, and it all does get somewhat pseudo virtual, right? But it also means that we have this opportunity to tell people, oh yeah, your body is sacred. Oh yeah, these are energy fields. Oh yeah, this is what this vibration is like. And so I'm hearing, even just amongst the different groups of my friends, having more of that type of conversation, more of the tantra level, where tantra isn't just sexuality. Tantra is a energetic level of way of being, and appreciation of and connection to the vibration of all things around you, right? So not only am I eating this food, I am having this energetic exchange all the way from when they started in the ground and went through their processes to come to me, as well as me meeting it, right? So I know that I went super deep really fast on that, but what I mean to say is just show the kids the ways of meditation, of understanding, hey, this gives you time to create and imagine, right? Not just constantly feeds your mind whatever it is in the background, listen to those thoughts, listen to your intuition. What do they tell you today? Listen to your body. Like I think that a lot of the things that the parents have been doing, and like you called it the firemen, was those coping mechanisms, right? And the coping mechanisms keep you out of body for the most part. They'll keep you, in a sense, like eating or smelling or shopping, or the sound of the ching or whatever. I think they added that to online buying now, because you can hear it, I think, when you buy it, so you get that satisfaction.
Oh, like ding ding.
I bought something. But bringing the self back into the body, right? And then learning all the beauty and the specialty of how to care for the body. We're not just making food, we're putting energy into that food, and that energy is now going into us, messages in water, all of these really cool concepts that overlap science and spirituality, but it's not full on spirituality, right? Because in order for education to be a safe place, they've taken secular out of it, as far as I understand, except for the Pledge of Allegiance. Do they still do the Pledge of Allegiance?
We do.
Yeah, yes and no.
Mhm.
I'm telling my
It's a shaky thing. You don't have to stand for it, but you know, if you want to, and then
yeah.
Mhm.
So, as we see, the teachers are telling us the system is dismantling and reforming
Mhm.
itself, right?
Right.
But giving the kids the space and the parents to keep the value, right? Because there's something about keeping the culture going,
Mhm.
but there's also letting go of the things that never really worked for anybody in the first place, right? The realizing who wrote the history books and why it was written in such a way, and what these people actually went through or experienced, and who really how slave trades and all these things, because all of these are new topics for the kids that we weren't really allowed to really go into. It was kind of taboo. We talked black and white about it, but we didn't talk about all of the grays in between and all the travesties, like the true travesties that happen from you and your own people. That's like becoming a whole new revelation. Like, how do I be this walking answer to our ancestors' prayers? And the only way to do that is to really embody who I am, my body, where I come from, and then how I am going to reverberate or relate in this world. So there's also a sense of realness coming out too, right? It used to be an image thing, right? Like, I want to look as good as I can in all of my photos and try to make it look cool. But now it's like, oh, but this is what I look like when I wake up and my hair is a mess. And, they're starting to say it's okay to still be a human being in the process, right? There's no polish. And we're learning that everything is polished, right? That's what's important. I think that's very important for teenagers, especially, is to know that these things aren't real, especially, I'd say, of the whole ranges, right? This isn't real. I'm not going to lie to you about this. If you think about like the family dynamic, the first lie I think that a lot of people tell, and it sounds harsh, but Santa Claus, right? Santa Claus is real, right? We're going to put all of our energy into this. He might have been a person in history, but this is what the tradition is built on. This is how this commercial stuff gets sold. This is how we're trading all around the world. And as you get older, it's like math. You start with just learning numbers, then you learn addition, then you learn subtraction and all that stuff in between, where they are now able to systematically break down any system and see in real time what was really there or what they're allowed to see. Because I don't know if kids know this, but depending on what country you're in, your internet is edited, right? For content based on what the government wants the people to know. And this is a huge thing that people get to understand, because propaganda was invented around World War II, and we got that scientist over here to help build and reinforce the American spirit, right? Because it's the illusion of separation when we all know that something is off, and learning to go within and trusting that inner instinct. I think I went big, small, big again, but that's my vibe for the kids and the new age. They're just breaking it down to help rebuild it. But they have to get uncomfortable enough to figure out how to want to solve it. Because if they have everything handed to them, and if everything was easy, and if everything was like cool, well, we're hanging out with our friends all the time, I would be distracted from being uncomfortable enough to look in, why am I uncomfortable? But the key is also, like, I know it's hard to deal, but I know there's a lot of depression with kids. I know that it's hard to keep a track of everybody that's going through this right now. And at least before, you could look them in the eyes. You could tell that something was up. But now you've got to go out of your way to make sure that everybody's accounted for at this point.
True.
Because we're losing some really beautiful light workers to isolation.
That's true. That's true.
Yep.
And talking to them and everything. So that's true. So as we wrap up, this was a very good conversation. We took it all the way from marriage. I think we did everything in a nutshell, even including with ourselves and understanding that the whole process even if we're in a unit, it still ends up with us at the end of the day and how we're contributing to it, whether it's in the family or in the marriage, whichever way is that. So again, if you again, how can they get in touch with you again? I know we already talked about, but I'm just doing this for showbiz. So how can they get in touch with you, Stephanie, if they're interested in getting more information or maybe working with you one-on-one consultation? What way can they do that?
They can send me an email at sgibbs98 at yahoo.com.
Yes, very good. Yeah. So if you have anything, some more things, and you like what she's talking about, especially the system of the internal family systems and other things that she can counsel you on, family or again of marriage, you can make sure you can go hit her up with that as well. All right. And ladies, is there anything that we need to know since we're wrapping it up about you that's going on in your own individual businesses? Started with April.
I have a couple of kits coming up pretty soon. Some intro kits in how to get in touch or how to set up an ancestor practice. So just kind of like a quick starter. It'll come with some candles, kind of like some just a setup on how to set up a small section for your ancestors, just to begin the practice, right? And it's
Okay.
easy if you can plug and play, plug and play, plug and pray, plug and pray.
I like that. It's the plug and play special package.
And yeah, that's gonna. And then I have one other thing I'm in the works for, but it's some stuff who people who have had like roots and stuff put on them, juju stuff. We're gonna come together and we're gonna do some clearing. I'm gonna get some testimonials out from you, but there's been some really beautiful results from these rituals that came to me way before the pandemic. So when I first did this, it was before the pandemic, and all the stuff was coming together. But when you're a really heavy lightweight worker, they send all kinds of stuff at you that you have to matrix through, right?
Oh.
And so you can see me matrixing through if you go and watch our playground series and some meditations and some stuff like that. But my personal channel is about to get really some nice revision and more momentum to it. So
Okay.
yeah, check it out.
All right. All right. All right. She already said she had birthed a new her on yesterday. She was born yesterday. That's not her. There we go. All right. And you, Kathy D, pineapplefishlifecoaching.com.
We have got some journals and some journaling techniques that are going to be coming out, some new videos. There's going to be a couple programs that are coming out on getting to know yourself and your inner self, and just March is going to be a really busy month. February's being kind of busy as I'm moving a lot of energy with myself and seeing a lot of things. I'm going to be passing that on to you guys on how you can do it, not the long way like I did, but like the shorter way that you get this understanding and just working on self-love and identifying who you are.
Okay. All right then. So I hear a wave of a lot of newness, taking advantage of this new moon and creating something different. Make sure that also that you come to the divineunisociallove.co if you want a package deal where you can work with all three of us as well. We talked about one of past life also and getting those things together with you, and then you want some transformation as well, you can work with all three of us as well. We have specials for that, especially with these times that's going on. You're saying, I've tried, but I'm not having a breakthrough. It's always good in order for you to be able to alchemize that thing is for you to be able to check in with people who specialize in three areas. I always believe it's the soul, the mind, spirit, and the body. Those three things is how you're going to be able to push and excel those things. And we excel in all three of those areas for you. Whether it's for past life to see what's going on, how's it affecting you in the present, and also again how you can. This life is the very most important life that you can have, and so we also help you to deal to transform the life that you're living now as well. Right now we got a lot of things on the things. I got specials for me. Also, again, the love letters. If you're interested in that, $14. Go to divineunisouls11.co. If you want to do a transformation, a lot of people getting the transformational, I call it quickie or sneak peek, where I kind of say what areas you need to transform yourself. That's a good time for you to do that, especially this being a new year, a Chinese New Year. New Year has been January 21st. Now you got Chinese New Year. So again, that helps you to understand that it's a new year energy that's happening right now that's going on. So to get into that newness, to understand yourself, make sure you apply for that as well. And like I said, those two. And it's not anything else. I got some other things, but I want to treat and work and get that together. Because again, we're all saying we feel this newness that we need to help you, and us going through what we're doing is going to help you in the long run. And then we got something other special, but we're going to get that all together about what's going to happen new for the playground experience as well. All right, so make sure that you do click like and share and subscribe to this channel so you can get the good notifications. Smash that button there that says all, so you can get all that good stuff and notifications when we are going live as well. So I want to thank again my adopted niece there, Stephanie, that's here. She adopted me, I adopted her. She came on. She's like, Auntie, I got some stuff I got to say. I want to come on the playground and play. And I was like, come on, Niecy. We don't have no problem. What you come to share? She's like, I want to talk about family and marriage. I said, we got you, boo. So she came on here and said she wanted to share information. So thank you so very much, Niecy Pooh, for coming on here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, then, April, get us on out of here. What's your sign off for tonight?
Stay blessed. Stay golden, and remember, you were made for this golden life.
Yes. And Kathy D.
Make sure you get the virtual sand out of your socks and shoes. Put on your own shoes. Take your own buckets, pails, and clean up all of your virtual trash around our sandbox, please. Also, wishing you the best life ever. See you real soon.
All right, Stephanie, you got to sign off or any kind of thing. Well, you're going to sign off tonight, but come on.
remember the most important relationship is the one you have with yourself first before others.
All right, I like that. Go on, Niecy. All right, and as always, stay uplifted, stay motivated, stay ascending. Namaste. Now I'm going to go. Mwah. Until next time, we'll be talking to you real soon. All right.